be preserving Wii games as they are, or should we maybe be bidding the motion controls goodbye? Would these games lose something if we took the motion controls away, or would they actually become a little bit more timeless? To figure this out, I played an absolute Wii masterpiece. Nintendo is in a tough spot when it comes to remastering and preserving games from the DS and 3DS and Wii era, because these pieces of hardware were so unique that the games released on that platform had to be completely designed with those tech specifications in mind. We call motion controls a gimmick now, but at the time they were seen as the inevitable future of gaming. Every major gaming company jumped on board to motion controls, and I don't think Nintendo ever expected to be in the position of the Wii no longer being timeless. Now, they've been able to get around this because both the Switch and the Switch 2 have motion controls, but no one really seems to like them very much. Skyward Sword HD actually just straight up gave you the option to not use them, but that isn't what I've been playing these past 2 weeks. I actually did have the Wii version of that game, and I used to have a blast, swinging my sword around the living room. Also, if you're wondering why we are in our jammies on a Tuesday afternoon with a different set than we normally have, it's because I played hooky today. If you live in the Northeast like I do, it has been the most miserable winter. I feel like I've been eyeing up the calendar, deciding what day I'm gonna play a little hooky day. Use your PTO, people. Your boss doesn't need you that bad, and there is no reason to save it. Okay, so I bought a Wii with my own money the summer before 10th grade. I had this really brilliant idea that if I bought a Wii and Wii Fit, I would lose a little bit of weight before the next school year, look, I'm not saying it's not sad that at age 14 and a size 10, I thought I needed to lose weight, but that is kind of hilarious kid logic to be like, I need to buy this super cool gaming system, and with the power of my new super cool motion gaming system, I am gonna look good in a bikini. And it's like, girl, you were 14. The reason you looked awkward was because you were 14. Or 15, I don't know, around then. Look, I played Wii Fit at my cousin's house, and I'm sorry, but if you never got shamed by a piece of plastic in front of your entire family because your little me would, make a grimace and then, blow up like a balloon, and this boom sound effect would play, and up on the screen it would flash, you're overweight in front of everybody. If that never happened to you, you did not end up down the Lean Cuisine's after school pipeline. You were probably not out here asking for 100 calorie packs in your lunchbox at age 15. And feeling so dignified when you did it. You're like, oh yes, this is my sad little graham cracker that's claiming it's an Oreo. In honor of the upcoming movie, I actually played Super Mario Galaxy for the first time, as you can see by the B-roll and the title and the thumbnail. I've had this on my Switch for years because I made the just downright foolish decision to buy a digital copy of 3D All-Stars when it first came out. I really just bought it for Sunshine, which it turns out is hard as hell. Oh my god. I should have been playing Galaxy instead, because at least up to this point, I'm not ripping my hair out at the little do-do-do-do-do-do, acapella soundtrack as I fall over and over again. I think I actually did avoid Galaxy for a while, though, because I knew I would have to deal with the motion controls. Now, I do know the controls have been heavily modified in 3D All-Stars. Your attack is now mapped to a button, and in handheld mode, you collect star bits with the touchscreen. I found I needed motion controls to grab onto things for certain bosses like the big spider, and to use the warp stars more smoothly. This is modified from the original version, which use motion controls for a lot more from what I understand. All of your jumps and attacks are motion-based in the original. I was really happy to have these mapped to buttons instead. At least, I'm pretty sure I am. See, the controls on this Switch version feel just a little clunky. Not in that they're physically uncomfortable, but there is something about the physics in this game that just feel a little bit off. And that's me not having any point of reference to the original. Mario is just kind of always moving in ways or directions I'm not really expecting him to be moving while I'm exploring all the planets, especially if they're in odd shape. He's always moving just a little bit slower than I'm used to, like just a little bit. And I often feel like I have to remind myself to go into motion controls and collect the star bits that are off in the distance. Maybe it's because I'm coming from Odyssey, but I keep running up to them or thinking that I need to run up to them. I have a feeling this all just felt a little more natural on the Wii, and instead I feel like my brain is just constantly forgetting when I'm interacting with something that needs the motion controls instead of the buttons, and transitioning between the two is not the smoothest. Now, I did get used to it. It's not game ruining, but it certainly is not my favorite. It was easy enough to fix any gyro issues by pressing the R to recenter, but when it comes to playing on the TV, I do think it would have been better if they had just scrapped the motion controls instead of having this awkward hybrid model. But part of me doesn't really like that solution either. It feels like you aren't properly preserving the spirit of the original game if you entirely take the motion controls away. I think they should have just maybe had the option to turn them off or on, but in this particular case with 3D All-Stars, that's probably more effort than they really wanted to program for what was essentially just a bundled trio of ports. Regardless of what feel like awkward controls on this port, it doesn't take away from what a masterpiece this game is, and what a testament to just how great a piece of media the developers made here in 2007. Playing Mario Galaxy made me really nostalgic for that, golden era of Nintendo, you know? The Wii and the DS were such strange, unique consoles that it led to just hundreds of these strange and unique games. It just felt like they were less scared to make something weird. And I like how this game started out intense and cinematic. Like, Bowser actually feels scary in this opening scene and not silly like he does in other titles. He just went totally scorched earth, and it feels like the Mushroom Kingdom and Peach are in real danger. In your first boss fight with him, you actually really do get the vibe that he is trying to murder you and throw you into a black hole. I do have one deep, dark confession about the design in this game, though. And I'm almost afraid to admit it because I know that Rosalina is a beloved baddie. But to me, she always looked a little bit too much like Peach. Like, I wish she just looked a little bit different from our girl. When Mario is sent into space, you get this lonely, disorienting vibe. Just like the character you're playing as, you feel lost in a bizarre, kind of disorienting and creepy place. They created that feeling perfectly between the music and the weird shapes and the lack of sunlight. Even the game over screen being sucked into a black hole is kind of terrifying if you think about it too hard. As much as I love Odyssey, Galaxy has this edge and sadness to it that I feel like more modern Mario games would not go for. So speaking of Odyssey, it's a little weird to have started here and then go back to the classic 3D Marios. Okay, technically my first 3D Mario was actually 3D Land, which I still absolutely love. And I love that it introduced me to the world of Mario. But these two being my starting points did make the whole hub world style a little bit weird for me. And with that in mind, I really didn't always like it. So what I'm talking about. In 3D Land and in Odyssey, you would unlock a new land, you would play through it, you would pick up the bonus coins or the bonus stars, and then it would end, and you would really only go back if you missed something there. This style in the more classic games where you unlock a hub world and you sort of replay that world 3 or 4 times with a slight variation with different goal stars at the end, it felt a little bit tedious to me. That feels more like a personal preference because this is more what I'm used to, rather than that being a flaw with the game. That kind of felt like a Bridget problem, not a game problem. But I would find myself irritated when I would be halfway through a level. I would do some kind of bonus challenge to get an extra star, and then it would just entirely kick me out of the level for picking up a bonus star. Like, you know what I'm talking about? It wouldn't be the main goal star at the end, but like you would feed one of the Luma a bunch of star bits and it would send you to like a little challenge planet where you had to stomp all the Goombas or something. If you pick up that star, it kicks you out of the level and undoes all of your progress towards the main star of that level. That felt like a huge design flaw to me. Like, that felt really annoying when that would happen. I talked to my husband about it because he played Mario 64 as a kid, whereas I did not. And he was saying that that was really weird because in Mario 64, when you would get a 100 coin star, it wouldn't do that. It would just let you keep going.
And with that in mind, it had me thinking about how not only did this game have to figure out how to preserve a very of its time control scheme, a lot of retro games in general were just not designed for these long open world binging sessions that we're more used to. Something like Mario Galaxy has that structure because they are expecting the player to jump in for much shorter play sessions. Game consoles used to be on the family TV, which you probably only had one of, and it was in the living room. It worked out much better for kids in 1995 or 2002, 2007 to have a game that you could pick up for 5, 10, 15-minute level that would end in an accomplishment rather than going through a 40-minute world. There's a solid chance that your mom was going to kick you off the Wii to watch the news. So if you were a kid in this time period, you also know that there was this massive societal push to limit screen time and encourage kids to be getting outside and moving. Hell, that's a huge reason why motion controls took off the way that they did. Households that normally didn't allow a gaming console would allow a Wii because it was seen as active.
But that just isn't really how we game anymore. Most people have multiple TVs, or they have a TV in their room, or if you're getting kicked off the TV, you have handheld mode. Though I'm not gonna lie, us millennials and millennial parents could probably learn a thing or two about setting some better screen time boundaries for ourselves and our kids. Regardless though, this constant back and forth out of the hub worlds, for a more modern gamer when you're sitting down for a longer play session, I didn't particularly like it. I actually played the game in handheld mode for a little bit, and I gotta say, it did not feel natural at all.
Like I mentioned earlier, if you're playing in handheld mode or on a Switch Lite, all of the motion controls actually become touch controls.
I think it was really passable. It was a good solution for making the game playable in handheld mode or on a Switch Lite, but it felt really awkward at times. There were times that the gyro controls were fun. Like, I remember this level where I was kind of balancing on a ball and I had to roll through the level using the gyro and tilting the Switch. That was pretty fun. That reminded me of Super Monkey Ball.
Nintendo is for sure in a bind when it comes to preserving or re-releasing the Wii and DS era games. When it comes to DS, they still clearly have not thought of a solution considering we haven't gotten DS on NSO just yet. Honestly, what I think would be really dope is if they release some kind of anniversary edition of a 3DS console. Maybe like down the line, you know? It could play old game cartridges and maybe come preloaded with some classics. Considering how popular that console is right now, I kind of feel like that's a no-brainer. When it comes to the Wii, the Switch's gyro makes it possible, but now they're stuck with the roadblock reality of people just don't really like to game this way very much. Games that were not blatantly sports games often seemed like they just had to make it work with motion controls rather than be enhanced by them. Mario Galaxy really could exist without motion, but it does feel more authentic when it's there. I think the hybrid model that 3D All-Stars went for just wasn't my preferred solution, and to me made things feel a little clunky at times. I think they should, in the future, figure out a more all-or-nothing solution, where you can play OG or just play without the motion entirely.
All in all, I really admired the scope and the beauty of this game. I really admire the game's kind of more desolate tone that gets a little creepy at times. It looks beautiful, it's fun in bursts, and even though it's not my personal favorite, I really do understand why a lot of people cite it to be theirs. If anything is gonna make me put it down and not pick it up for a while, it's not the game's fault. It's just that Mario Tennis Fever is coming out in like 3 days, and I'm pretty excited for that. I love Mario Tennis. And then Pokopia is coming out right after that, which I'm excited to try as well. I'm also not quite done Prime Remastered, and that has me pretty sucked in.
When it comes to preserving Wii games, I think Skyward Sword HD got it right. They allowed you to play with or without the motion controls, and I think that's the most timeless option that Nintendo has. But realistically, the best way for you to enjoy Wii games is to go to your local retro spot and buy some used games, buy a used console, buy controllers. The retro shops have done a lot to keep video games out of the landfill and give even the most loved games new life. You're probably supporting a local business if you do this as well. Like, go on Google and see if there's one in your area before you resort to going to GameStop. If you can manage to get your hands on either your old Wii or someone else's, you can buy Mario Galaxy for the Wii for like $15. Not 50, not 100, looking at you, 3D All-Stars. Hell, it may even be worth it for you to just buy a used Wii U. Those are pretty cheap right now. But I'm telling you, the retro spots around me are flooded with cheap Wii games because that console isn't quite in its 20-year nostalgia period yet. If you really want to play Galaxy, that might be your best long-term investment if you have the money to do it. If that's a bit much for you, I would get the Switch bundle with Galaxy 2. It seems like that game did a better job of having less clunky controls than 3D All-Stars.
So what do you guys think? Do you think we should just flat out preserve Wii games with motion controls? Do you think we should adapt them? Do we think we should maybe go the Skyward Sword method and program in both? Let me know in the comments, and I hope I maybe inspired you to pick up Mario Galaxy or just play hooky in your PJs on a random Tuesday. I'll see you guys next time. Have a fabulous day.